Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of On Brand from Muse by Clio. I'm Nicole Purcell, the president of the Clio Awards, and before I bring out my amazing co-host, Mr. Tim Nudd, I love to throw quickly to a word from our partners. Hey, Tim.
Hi, Nicole. How are you?
I am so excited for today.
Yes.
Because it's like we're bringing family back to us that we haven't seen in a while. And we're going to have fun. So I'm very excited.
Totally. Yeah. We are thrilled today to have as our guest for this week, Kathleen Hall. She's the Chief Brand Officer at Microsoft. She's been a Clio judge several times, I believe. And also multi-time recent Grand Clio winner for some great work that Microsoft's been doing.
Yep.
And we're going to talk all about what they've been up to lately with advertising for teens during COVID and some other things, her thoughts on creativity. So pleased to welcome Kathleen Hall.
Hi, guys.
Hi. Welcome to On Brand, Kathleen.
Salut.
Salud. Cheers.
That is, well, we've had so many great trips together. China, Bali, and just last year in November, we were in LA for Clio Entertainment Fest with Mr. Rob Riley, who's always fun and crazy.
You're right.
How have you been during this whole crazy time? Where are you? What are you doing? Who are you with? Who'd you kill? Like, what's happening right now?
I've been okay. I think like everybody, initially it was shock. We went out pretty early in the Northwest because we were one of the first cases in the country. We left work March 4th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I remember thinking, and Natalie will laugh at this now, like, I thought it was like a fire drill. Like, this is a bunch of baloney. They're all panicking. Nothing's going to happen. I left my laptop at work. I was like, it was like, and then the next day I'm like, I got to go get my laptop because this is serious. And it was the first time I walked in and, to see Microsoft campus with not a car. I mean, it's the eerie, and to walk in the building and have not a human. It was just super. I think that's when it hit me. Like, this is going to be serious.
Real.
Yeah. So I was primarily in Redmond. I have a big house. My sister just moved out from New York to start over after a divorce, and her daughter moved in with us. So I had these.
Oh, nice.
It was basically a big sorority house. My husband was in Florida working on a house project, so we had kind of girls take over, with the exception of my son. And 4 dogs. They all brought their dogs home from college, and my daughter was teaching 4th grade, so we were all fighting for bandwidth. So I think we're pretty much the typical family in this situation. I think wine consumption in the Pacific Northwest went up like 130%.
Oh yes.
Yeah. But in some ways, my sister's a great cook. I'm not, so we get the benefit of that.
Perfect.
Your 20-year-old something kids usually want nothing to do with you, and we ended up spending more time together. So there was upside.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. Now I'm in Florida. It was actually my 30th wedding anniversation yesterday. So
congratulations.
Thank you. So if we're going to risk death on airplanes, we might as well risk it for that. So I came down for some sunshine and fresh air.
Is it like, okay? Are you able
it's very different. The Pacific Northwest is very strict, I would say, like very fairly militant. Like your neighbors will check you, and there's a lot of, where's your mask at the dog park? Like, very, very serious. And then I feel a little looser in Florida. I feel like it's not like they're disobeying, but there's not as much militancy about it.
Okay.
That's just sort of my sense. And just having sunshine makes everything feel good.
It does.
Yeah, sunshine and fresh air. So we've been getting out a lot, physically. My husband got a treadmill bicycle, which is crazy, and I'm waiting for him to kill himself on it. So we've been going out for rides. Not after cocktails, though. We have a limit. It's like 4 o'clock, no more treadmill bike.
Well, I'm sure work's been crazy too. And the first thing I wanted to ask you, Kathleen, the pandemic has changed so many people's lives. Has it fundamentally changed the way that people interact with Microsoft, or the way that you guys interact with consumers?
Yeah, totally. I mean, in some ways, no, and in some ways, yes. But a phrase Satya has used quite often of late is, in a way, where we're kind of first responders to the first responders. So the people that we help sort of function day in and day out, big hospitals, the CDC itself, giant police forces like you saw in our ads, educational institutions. We are a big part of how they connect with their constituents of all different kinds digitally. So we were right on it fast and hard. So people really went to work helping our partners get as, operational as possible, as fast as possible. So it hit us like a tsunami. It wasn't like there was an adjustment period.
Yeah.
And then on the marketing side, I had a bunch of stuff on the dock. We were heading for a shoot, like I think that Friday that everything was called. I remember having a conversation with Harris, and he said, "We've got an Xbox team going to Budapest. What do you think?" I'm like, "No, I'm thinking no." And he agreed. We were just kind of hashing it out. So the impact on production very quickly was immediate halt, and then trying to figure out, hey, how do we retool messaging in this context, and then production. So we had a spot running at the time, a team spot that was all about a big meeting. I don't know if you know that it was basically a long pan down a conference room desk and all the different meetings that you just sit through, over and over again. And people are, within shoulder of each other with no masks and
wow. Yeah.
You can't keep running that, right? So what are we going to do? So basically we went to pretty quickly, hey, we could do this. We could shoot right through devices, real people, and quickly, like I would say, literally within the first week, the customer feedback that was coming back to us was mind blowing. Like, the London Metro Police, like we couldn't have continued to function without Teams, or the University of Barcelona, where Italy was hit very hard in the beginning. They had a lot of grants and studies going on, and students to keep engaged, and they were like, this is amazing what we can do with your product. So we're like, wow. So we were all about real people before, telling real stories. It just got realer. And I think the upside for the industry, Tim, because I'm thinking of your questions in advance. The upside for the industry is, it peeled back all the, I don't want to say artifice, but a lot of the layers of capability that we've come to rely on, like great post and lighting and re-editing and shooting a million different ways. And it got it back to like, hey, the foundation of all this is great storytelling. I don't really need much more. I can have the London police guy telling us how integral this is to his life, or have the St. Luke's Hospital people tell us how they can see 44 patients a day because of virtual visits. That's pretty motivating. So anyway, those were a lot of changes that hit fast.
Yeah.
Well, talking about Microsoft Teams, I mean, we have a great spot that you guys just put out in May for Mother's Day that we are in love with, and just think it's showing such real life, and it's okay now. And so we're going to show it really quick. Love to hear a little bit about it and a little bit more about what you're doing.
Okay, great.
So I think we just need to think through some of the logistics there.
We're trying to get them to let us know so we can plan.
Very critical time for us.
I'm working too.
90% of the calls, Ellis thinks that she's also part of the call.
Starting next week.
Hey guys.
I'm so exhausted.
This is modern parenting.
I mean, I love that because it's so true. I see that with my team, Tim, whoever, like.
But also when we switched to it, you felt for a minute like you were in another meeting, right? That's how real it was.
Right.
Yeah, and actually that's the tame version. The first cut the agency showed me, I'm like, you literally, the point isn't to stress people out more. It stressed me out so much because it was even wilder than that. So we actually pulled it back for that. It's funny.
The hey guys moment is like universal, right? Hey guys, stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were actually just talking about how when we were younger, about how we got yelled at by our parents, and people today can't. Now, especially with this, you really can't.
Oh my gosh!
Because someone can have you on video.
I yelled at my daughter, Katie, I'll pay $100 for Diet Coke, and I'm like, I forgot to mute.
I love that. I love hearing that.
All the time.
You guys are really known for pulling on the heartstrings during COVID. Did you take advantage of that? Like, was that helpful for you guys? Because you've done that before COVID and kind of just went into it.
Like you saw on the Mother's Day thing, we went more for a smile. We felt like there was a lot of heartfelt going on, a lot of, we're all on this thing. We had a little, I think, empathy overload. So we wanted to go a little bit more, hey, we'll get through this. We realize it's tough, but we're all in this together kind of feel. And then similarly with the first spot, with the entities, all the businesses that were using us, it wasn't really so much heartstrings as confidence. We wanted to instill some confidence. Like people were shaking, like, will the world crash? Will everything come to a halt? We want to say, hey, look, these businesses and services are picking themselves up and business as usual. which is a confidence builder. So the tone shifted a little bit for us.
Yeah.
Okay. Kathleen, I want to ask you about the Xbox adaptive controller work that you guys did. Obviously, huge creative triumph for you guys. And I think during COVID, we've seen, that doing good in the world is more important than ever, probably.
Yeah.
I'm wondering about if you could tell us a little bit about that work and sort of how it reflects sort of the good that Microsoft wants to do.
Well, if we were home, that lovely trophy that you all gave us would have been right here. But since I'm in Florida, I tend not to carry them around.
Damn it.
Yeah, they stop insecurity. It's just an embarrassment. In fact, I carried it home saying, "Oh, this will go to the office." It never made it to the office. The background, the reason I love that work and the story behind it so much is because end to end, it really represents our company values and experience, because it really started as an engineering insight, which all great products do. And that engineering insight actually came from a story of inclusion, because the very first kind of impetus for thinking about this product was we had hired a veteran through our veteran program who was injured in combat and couldn't game the way he used to game. So it became a challenge for him because he realized so much of his social capital was involved in gaming. And then from that, we also had product people and engineers observe all the gerrymandering that was going on, all the people putting like glue and spit and duct tape together to try and play when they had physical challenges. So those two things kind of morphed into a vision of, hey, we gotta help people who are otherwise able be able to participate in gaming like other people. And then the third big kind of flywheel that got going with Phil Spencer, head of our Xbox group, met a guy online, and everybody knows Phil's gamer tag online because Phil's pretty open about it. And based on this guy's scores and creds, he seemed like a really serious gamer. And his name was like Darth Maul or something really scary. And his avatar was like a really scary thing. So they got playing, and the guy said, "Hey, any chance you get me some tickets to E3?" And Phil was like, "Sure, I'll get you tickets." And then he goes, "Well, can I bring my mom?" And Phil's like, "Oh gosh, am I talking to a 13-year-old or whatever?" But it turned out he was actually a paraplegic who gamed through apparatus that he had rigged. And Phil was, completely moved by meeting him. But the really motivating discussion was how Darth Maul said, "That's the real me. That's when I get to be myself. When I'm gaming, I'm not this. I get to be my kind of full persona." So all of that kind of swirled into the focus on the development of basically the adaptive controller that could help a lot of different people be able to game. And then from that, when we saw it as marketers, I was like, "Oh, this is a dream come true," because our values are all about inclusion. Yeah. And and it kind of mushed. Even as you saw, the packaging, everything about it was designed to be inclusive.
Beautiful.
So that was the background.
Yeah, I feel like it's still kind of unusual to have product development and marketing so seamlessly, connected. Do you feel like that's something you guys have gotten better at over the years?
Yeah, I have to tell you, I think, to me, I don't know why I visualize it as a circle, but there's sort of like engineering, and then in between is sort of product management, product marketing, whatever you call it. And then there's kind of the marketing, like marketing programs. Yeah. And I find sometimes the intermediation dilutes the signal. Like sometimes if you just get the people who make the messaging directly connected with the people who made the product, there's magic that happens. And that's not to, discount the role of product management and product marketing. I just feel like in a way we're both makers, the messaging people and the engineers. And when you put makers together, they just connect in a very inspiring way often. So I have a very strong relationship and direct relationship with a lot of our heads of engineering that I think help us make better messaging.
Yeah, okay. One more question about this. I'm just curious if you think sort of all brands should be thinking in terms of making people's lives better versus just profits, and is there sort of a kind of a moral calculus we should be thinking about in that regard?
I don't know if I'd go so far as say a moral calculus, because I don't know, Chick-fil-A sometimes makes my life really good. I don't know how to calculate it unless it's calories, which then would be a negative calculation. I think that there's a responsibility. I do think that people have come to expect that I support brands with my hard-earned cash when they support the values that I believe in. And I think that's really important. And I think there's a caution there, though, and I have this conversation a lot, on the line between values and position. For example, Nicole has a very wonderful woman pictured behind her who I admire greatly. I admire her, on many levels of value. I may not agree with political position, but I can still admire that person. It's the same thing, I think, for brands. If your core values are aligned to mine, It's not the same as taking a position on something. So that's where I think brands have to be careful. And also oftentimes when brands take a position, I won't mention a beverage of late that had a really bad experience, maybe a year and a half ago. It can be seen as inauthentic or borrowed interest, which then doesn't get you any credibility with your consumer. So you have to be very careful. So I think it has to be values-based and it has to be authentic to the core of who you are and what you do.
So tell us about a brand besides Microsoft that you admire for their marketing, their creativity.
I always get this question. I don't do a good job on it because I don't think about it. I'm going to do a weird one that people probably might scoff at, but I've been an admirer of Progressive for a long time with the Flow campaign, only because I have worked in that category and knew how difficult and challenging it was, and especially when Geico kind of had the corner on humor already. But to take an intangible like insurance and make it feel literally physically tangible and give it a personality, and then have the legs that campaign has had, I'm a pretty strong admirer of that. And the other brand that I really admire very strongly is National Geographic. I love their Instagram. I love how you took what could have been a next to dead. Gary, we don't have to do the garbage right now, do we, hon?
Yes, we do.
Oh my God, the action was. National Geo could have gone the way that magazines went, right? It could have been. It could have been gone right now, but the fact that they reinvented themselves for digital consumption so well, and then modernized themselves and kept relevance, I just think that they're something I admire.
Yeah,
nice.
Those were good ones. That was impressive.
Okay, there you go.
No, National Geographic's amazing. Just the content that they put out is remarkable.
Yeah. Look at their popularity. It's so appealing on so many levels, and also it takes us out of all the misery that we deal with online right now.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of your creative agencies. Obviously, you have such a strong relationship with McCann. Don't say because of Rob Riley either. No, kidding.
No.
Love him to death. But why is that? And how is your agency roster? Like, how does that work? And how do you guys work together, whether it's McCann or others?
So we have two major agency partners. One is McCann, and then one is Black Ops in Hollywood. And Black Ops is more of a, what their name would say, kind of more of a guerrilla approach team, and they're more rooted in Hollywood and their connections in Hollywood. And then McCann gives us, and both give us fabulous creative, but McCann also gives us breadth and scope and range of capabilities that a brand of our size needs. And what we find is we all like each other. You know what I mean? The team really. You could take the Black Ops team and put them at McCann, or take the McCann guys and put them at Black Ops, and it would be, because culturally we're very similar, so it works really well. In the old days, there used to be a lot of not invented here. Like if that idea came from them, we've had times where I've had Black Ops, give ideas on a line, or had, Sean or Rob take a look at a concept that we're doing and get their opinion. We work across the boundaries, so it's a really good mix. And I think what really makes us successful together is there's a lot of mutual respect. Like, it's not like there's a client, there's the agency, and it's not this tennis matchup. Well, here's the strategy. Okay, well, here's a concept. Yep, we don't like that. Here's a it's very collaborative and organic between. I think if you walked in a room and you didn't know the who's who, you wouldn't be able to tell who the client and who the agencies were.
I love that.
Yeah, we do too. And we've got a lot of strong women on the account. It's funny, we're not going to talk about Rob Riley, who I love dearly, and I love the culture that he's created and the quality that he, engenders at McCann. But, Shane Millington is our ECD, great woman creative. And Piper, we have a new female ECD that we love tremendously. And I think we're unique in that we have about 50% representation of women on the account right now. And creative is very unusual, and at executive level. So it's great. I went to a meeting early on, and I said, if I walk in another time with a 6-pack of men alone in the room, we're going to have some trouble. So thankfully everybody listened, and it's for the better of everybody. It's a great team.
Yeah.
And I got to say, McCann has done a fabulous job. I think they're ahead of the game in terms of female representation, particularly, but diversity on our team is phenomenal.
It's great.
Okay.
So so much uncertainty right now, but can you sort of take us through like maybe the next 6 to 12 months of what you expect to be doing strategically or creatively at Microsoft?
Well, I think we're looking at how is, what's the sentiment and the psyche feel like? I mentioned before, we sense a little bit of empathy overload, and we kind of wanted to go to a little bit of humor and escape and confidence. And I think that it's very hard to do right now. Like I've gotten to the point where I don't know if I trust myself right now in reading those tea leaves. Like, I don't know if you remember when we did the, the piece on Fifth Spot where we walked from our store on Fifth Avenue down to the Apple store and sang in the holiday season. That was right around the time of the Paris attacks and pre-election, or immediately post-election the last time. And, we kind of knew things were going to be sensitive, and let's focus on, hey, we're all in this together. And if we're kind to each other, we can make the world a better place. I could kind of read those tea leaves in advance and know where I want to go. Man, right now, it's hard. It's very hard. I know what our values are. I just don't know the right tone and place and time to express them. Yeah. And, we're figuring that out. Yeah. I think that it's never been a riper time for what we offer. I mean, I think the digital transformation that's happening among retail and education and as all those institutions we talked about earlier, I mean, we're right in the center of that. We're helping them, small business. So I think from a business perspective, we're super focused. I think from a messaging and marketing perspective, I'm a little bit cautious, which is not a descriptor I usually use for myself.
Well, the election must be throwing things totally out of whack too, because there's so much anger in the air and polarization just on top of COVID. And
yeah, I mean, the election, all of the social justice activities and movements, and then you have the production restrictions, you have broadcast programming that you're uncertain of what kind of context and environment are we going to be in, because what's going to get produced and what's not. We know football and NBA and all that was going to happen. Although I think those two are good examples of how we've evolved as a brand. I'm sure most of you watched the NFL draft, which we were not all, but virtually all the technology that underlaid that was us in teams, how the teams communicated with each other. And I think that could have been crazy bad. I mean, if things went wrong, or and also it could have been maybe boring. But on the other hand, what we found was it humanized people. So you could go in the basement. Yeah, and the guys,
with your family and friends or something, and it changes it. Yeah,
exactly. They weren't those rich players. They're like these normal kids that are judging. So there was a positive. And same thing when the NBA kind of came to us. It's not the same viewing experience, but it's an interesting experience and a level of access and engagement that maybe didn't used to happen because you use the digital medium. So, and same with the NFL. It's interesting. So those are other ways the brand is kind of playing a role in social and media without actually running ads necessarily.
Yeah.
The Voice, we did The Voice too. It's kind of fun.
Well, I think you guys are doing such an amazing job, and I love the pieces you're putting out. And even though it's confidence, it also pulls on my heartstrings because I want to be strong and I want to do this. So I'm like, so I think it's amazing. I am so happy you're a part of our family.
We are.
You're amazing. We love you so much. And thank you for taking the time with us today. This is just amazing. And I can't wait to see you in person.
Yes, and see the next fabulous dress you're going to wear at the next show.
And go away for another fabulous trip. So maybe I'll see you in Napa soon. How about that?
All right, that'd be awesome. Right. All right, cheers. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, it's interesting. Let's hope for some clarity going forward. I know it's a tough time for all and chief brand officers.
But she gives me hope. I mean, listening to what they're doing and everything and seeing those pieces, it excites me and makes me say, okay, let's go. Gonna move on. So makes me very happy. That was awesome.
That was awesome.
Have a great afternoon, Tim. Good to see you.
Good to see you. And thank you guys for watching. For the latest in creativity every day, check out musebykclio.com. And we're back here every Thursday with new episodes of On Brand. Thank you for watching.